During the summer break, you might have decided to take a little step back from Formula One, kick back, relax, enjoy the 4 weeks off of the action. But with the summer break coming to a close and the cars back on track this weekend in Spa, here's everything that you needed to know from the summer break. Now, technically just before the summer break, but the first domino to fall was definitely Sebastian Vettel's retirement announcement. We now know that he won't just be leaving Aston Martin, he'll be leaving Formula One as a whole at the end of the 2022 season. Which then led to the first big story of the summer break. Fernando Alonso announced that he would be switching from blue to green and taking the seat that Sebastian Vettel had just vacated, which then sparked 100 different questions up and down the Formula One grid. But in particular, what on earth are Alpine doing letting go Fernando Alonso, one of the best drivers on the grid this season? And it actually turns out, well, Alpine weren't aware that the Spaniard was going to be leaving until they saw the announcement from Aston Martin themselves. A little side note, as we were watching the Alpine team sent into a spiral, we also had an interview with Binotto in which he said Ferrari have no reason to change and he doesn't think they've made many mistakes over the first 13 races. What? The next day, though, we heard from Alpine as they announced their replacement for Fernando Alonso and they had gone for the Australian Oscar Piastri. As the current Alpine junior and test driver, it made perfect sense for the Australian to be announced. Also, we thought, as Oscar's contract actually was a little bit more complicated. Similar to Alonso, his contract was coming to an end, and with no guarantee of a seat for the 2023 season, before the Fernando Alonso bombshell dropped obviously, he seems to have come to an agreement with another team on the grid. This then led to Piastri dropping a bombshell of his own as he came out and said that he would not be driving for Alpine as he had already made plans elsewhere, although where those plans have been made are yet to be seen. It's probably McLaren, though. Then it got even more messy as Alpine announced they would be taking Oscar Piastri and his manager Mark Webber to court to settle some of these issues. Whilst this madness ensued, Williams jumped at the opportunity to join the Formula One news hype train and decided to announce that Alex Albon will actually be keeping his seat with the team on a multi-year deal. But whilst contracts were being signed at Williams, the opposite was happening at Haas. As it was released that the contract talks with Mick Schumacher were put on hold whilst Haas observed what was happening to the rest of the Formula One field, keeping their options open for 2023 and piling even more pressure on their young German driver for the second half of the season. Meaning that Haas still have a seat available for next year, but also Mick Schumacher has the option to go and talk to other teams. But whilst we waited for more driver news, we turned our attention to the teams themselves. First off, there was a tweet from Mario Andretti that pointed the finger at Toto Wolff and stated that it was too powerful for Formula One. Possibly a dig out of frustration as the American team still can't find a way to get into Formula One themselves. Which must be doubly frustrating as this unknown man was able to take his Formula One car for a spin on a motorway in the Czech Republic. A big announcement from the FIA then came as the new engine regulations for 2026 were approved and released to the public. The changes are in line with Formula One's movement to being net zero by 2030, opening the door to other manufacturers to start looking more seriously about entering Formula One come the regulation changes in 2026. We already knew that Porsche were buying into Red Bull, and with Audi circulating, there was speculation over whether these two German brands would start to have an effect on which drivers were in which teams. Going back towards the driver market, the news that everyone had been expecting finally dropped in that Daniel Ricciardo announced that he had come to an agreement with McLaren and would leave the Papaya team at the end of the 2022 season, but was looking to remain in Formula One, even though McLaren seemed to have offered the Australian an IndyCar seat, with seats still available at Alpine, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Haas, and Williams up for grabs. He kindly declined. Last but most certainly not least, Audi announced they would be joining Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Renault as an engine manufacturer in Formula One come 2026. With Alfa Romeo ending their partnership with the Sauber Group at the end of the 2023 season, it's suspected that Audi will take over from the Italians and become a full works team in 2026. And that, my friends, is everything that happened in the Formula One summer break. You're all caught up and ready for the undoubted craziness that is coming in the second half of this Formula One season. There are still so many questions to be answered though, so in the comments down below, I'd love one prediction that you have for the second half of the season. They can be as crazy as you like. Whilst you're down there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. We're getting so incredibly close to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, if you can give me a couple of sausages. Some sausages for me for the barbecue. So is the race still gonna last 2 hours or no? It's